and welcome back. Today we are talking about John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion. We are on the part of the Institutes that talks about the Christian life, how to live the Christian life. We're in Book 3, Chapter 7, and the big idea here is self-denial. If we are to live for Christ, we are to deny ourselves. And what Calvin understands, as he understands the Christian life, is that we are to no longer live for our own desires, but we are to live for God's glory. That means that we take his desires, how he wants us to live and what he wants accomplished in this world, and we take those on and own them as our own. We want his will. We want his glory. And in doing this, we're setting aside our own agendas. We come into this world with our own agendas, and sometimes when we lay our Bibles aside, we just go busily about our own agendas. And yet God has an agenda in this world to bring glory to himself, to save souls, to build up the saints, to accomplish the work that he means to do. And he means for us to willingly sign up to do his will. And so one of the things then when we deny ourselves is we're laying aside our plans for what we'd like to see happen in our life, which oftentimes center on us and our own self-advancement. And we instead prioritize first, seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. We do God's will in what we do. One idea here in this section then is that we are God's. We belong to him. It's not merely enough to say that we work for God or something along that line, but we belong to him. We were bought with a price. We are not our own. And so we are God's. We belong to him. We are his servants. And so this is the way the Bible describes us and our task in this world. And we do well to recognize that our lives do not belong to us. They belong to God. And therefore we must do what he calls us to do. In the act then of living for God and not for us, we must do what Titus 2 tells us to do, put off a number of things such as ungodliness, worldly desires, put those things off, and then put on being sober, righteous, and godly in this present world. There's a way in which we must put away the sinful inclinations that we have and give ourselves fully to walking in God's ways. Again, in this section, then Calvin emphasizes what we saw the last time, which is that we need to be born again. We need new hearts. It is by God giving us new hearts that we'll want to live for him and not us. Without a new heart, we'll just want to keep living for us. We might do a little bit of work for the Lord, but we keep thinking, well, that's enough. That should be enough. And then we want to get right back to our own work. But by God's help with new birth, we are given hearts that recognize that it is always right that we live as those that belong to him, not for ourselves. One other thing that Calvin says at the end of at least our video that we're going to talk about today is that we need to use the gifts that God has given us for the good of others, and especially within the church. Calvin here emphasizes that we are given these gifts and we are to work for the Lord and to use our gifts really all over, but especially within the church to build up the church and to help it prosper, because the Lord means to do his work in this world primarily through the church. And so we must use our gifts there. And I think that's a helpful word for us. Many today are wanting to minimize the importance of a church. And Calvin is here saying, no, the gifts that you were to exercise should not be exercised to the neglect of the church, but honestly for the benefit of the church and then through the church to the world.